Ashley here. Welcome to my channel. This is just going to be a quick video going over some shortcuts that I use. Some of them I've changed from the defaults. Some of them are default ones, but they're just handy to know. These will be shortcuts I've kind of picked up from watching YouTube tutorials or from people I've worked with, things like that. But yeah, so we'll kind of go through, and this is ways I kind of just make things a little bit quicker and easier to get through. So first I've got on my list is marking things down. So up here with rigging a lot, it can become really complex. You'll have tons of nodes all over the place, and it's really nice to have backdrops to make it nice and neat. So right now without my hotkey, you'd be going up here, insert, backdrop, and you can see I have a hotkey there of F12. So if I were to just select the nodes, hit F12, I now have a box there ready to go. I can also just click off and it'll just create one for me, and we can do that. So I have F12 to do backdrops when I'm in this window here, but I also have F12 set up to do hotkeys down here. So when you're animating or rigging or anything like that, you might want to mark a frame in your animation. And I have that also set to, if I hit F12, it very quickly just puts a marker right down there, as opposed to me having to right click on it, scene marker, create scene markers or mark the current frames, and then having to tweak or play with them after the fact. So that just makes it quick and easy. So if we go up here to edit keyboard preferences, if I'm looking for either of those, if I go to the little bar here and I go backdrop, you'll see right there, create backdrop. And there was no default hotkey for that. So I simply just selected F12. I believe that was a suggestion in a YouTube video I had watched at one point. So that's just the one I happened to use. And then same for current frame. Mark current frame, there you go. There's no default hotkey for that, so I also made that F12. Now the way I can have two things doing something with the same hotkey is it's based on the window that it's in. So if my cursor is in this window up here, the node view, F12 will give me a backdrop. If I'm down here in the timeline view, F12 is going to mark my scene for me. Now your pencil tool pencil lines. There we go, pencil tool. Is normally this weird Alt plus. I'm a gamer, so I like to kind of keep my fingers down at the WASD. That's where I'm kind of resting my hand when I'm on the keyboard to begin with. So for me, the pencil is pretty much what I'm drawing all of my rigs with. I want it to be ridiculously easy. I have it set to W now. So I just tap W. If I just tap W, you'll notice it automatically swaps to my pencil tool for me. Just a heck of a lot quicker and easier, and I can kind of get into a rhythm. Another one that I'll use a lot is the pencil editor. And what that is if I were to go here, I'm just going to make a bigger cursor here. That, and then I want to edit said line. So I want to kind of make it taper off on the end depending on the art style. So that'll be another tool that I will use quite a bit. Oops, helps if I can spell. There we go, pencil editor tool. Its default is 8. I have it changed to Alt W. So W is my pencil, Alt W gives me the editor for it. Another one I might use a lot, and I'll show you what it does, is if I'm kind of doing some quick shapes like this, and then I'm going to go in and clean them up. But if I go to my actual line editor, you'll see it's 1 line, 2 line, 3 line, and I want these to actually be joined. Under tool properties here, there's that button there to join or separate lines. I have that set up to be Alt J for join. So W is my pencil, Alt W is my editor, and then Alt Join is my join pencil lines. Sorry, my recording software just kind of glitched there. So sorry, we're back to merge pencil lines. So right here is Alt J. So I've got my pencil tool is W, my pencil editor is Alt W, and then merging the lines from it is Alt J. So Alt W and Alt J. Handy hotkey to know. It's just a default hotkey, but say you had a hierarchy in here of pegs. So you know what? Let me just grab. I'm going to quickly create a peg here. Don't mind that pop-up. If you saw the preferences video, that is just my little pop-up reminder going off to save so I don't lose work. And then I'm just going to do this and then say this is going up the hierarchy chain here. If we had something and you wanted to go up or down the chain, so I'm hitting B, and Shift B goes down the hierarchy chain. So when you're working on limbs, legs, feet, and you have the hand, you can basically Shift B goes down, B goes up, as opposed to having to find the node, click on it or anything. You can jump up and down through the hierarchy chain that way. That's a default setup of B and Shift B. So I just keep that one as is. As well as another handy one to know in here is that to just skip forward a frame or two, like so, is the hotkeys of the forward and backward arrows on your keyboard. It's also the period and the comma. So period would be going forward, your comma would be going back. They're arrows, so that made sense to me to keep them like that, so I didn't mess with those either. Another handy hotkey is deleting drawing substitutions. So if you mess up a couple drawing substitutions, like if I'm in here, even if I delete what's on the screen, the drawing, because you'll see nothing there, there we go, it's there, but say I go, you know what, I don't want this drawing anymore, I delete it. I'm just deleting it from here, its exposure. It is still, there's still an empty drawing there that's made. And you can delete these or clean them up by hitting this little box here, and you can right click on them and you can rename or delete selected drawings. So I actually have, you can see I have hotkeys for these delete selected drawings. I have as Control Delete. So while I have this unlocked and I'm in here, I can Shift Select or Control Select multiple drawings, hit Control Delete instead of right clicking in that, and then that will get me all those extra drawings or ones that maybe they're not using anymore, and I can clear those out really quickly. So keyboard shortcuts. There we go. Sorry, it's called delete selected drawings as opposed to delete drawing substitutions. There we go. So you can see there's no default hotkey for that, so I have that as just Control Delete as opposed to delete being just the regular getting rid of stuff and cutting it. Cable cutter. So if you've got a bunch of stuff going on here, got this handy cable cutter, drag and it goes ahead and it will cut those for you. I have that set to Shift C. There you go. So normally we'd go up, grab it, and cut. Again, that's not difficult to do. It only takes a split second, but sometimes for me, muscle memory will work a little bit faster. I'll hit Shift C on there to grab it quickly, and we are good to go. Oh, the paint tool. So also, if you're drawing with the pencil, you're going to fill the rig in with your paint bucket. So the default of it is Alt-I, which is like across the keyboard for me. So with where my hand is and how small my hands are, that can be a really uncomfortable position to go in, especially if I'm using a Cintiq. So with my hand resting at like the WASD, I just set it as Q to quickly grab my paint bucket. Also, creating color art from line art. So you can see there, I haven't changed that, but that is a handy one to know too. Just because if you're making a drawing and then you're tweaking it, sometimes the color art won't follow your adjustments to your line art layer. And then you're just having to delete the color art anyways. So I actually have my pencil tool set to not automatically create the color art. Once I have the line drawing perfect, then I basically just grab the art, hit the star there, and it will create the color art for me, and then I can go down to my color art layer and fill it in. Select tool is also another one you're going to use a lot of. Select tool. Default of Alt S, so that's this guy right here for going and selecting things. That's handy to know. Enabling and disabling your nodes. This is also a default one, so it's not custom. If you want to go ahead and say hide, turn off a drawing or something, you want to select it, hit D, D for deactivate, A for activate. It's a quick and handy thing to just go in and toggle stuff on and off. If it's in the way and you're trying to see around something, you can just disable those particular drawing nodes. Your transform tool here, that's another one because you'll use it a lot. That's handy to know your shortcut for. Oops. Form. Here we go. So you can see we've got Shift T for that. That makes sense. It's a transform tool. Shift T. That's quick and easy jumping between the tools as opposed to having to go up to your toolbar. Again, going to your toolbar doesn't take long, but I just find that saves you the couple little bit of seconds in that. Another handy hotkey. Is this one right here. So this is your node view. You can see all the hotkeys for your node view. Creating displays is Control Y. So creating displays is nice because maybe you only want to look at what's coming through the arm composite that you have and you don't need to see the whole character. So you can go ahead and create a display, plug it in, and then select that display from the drop box in the top. And then just focus in on that one piece there. Another one that's handy, you'll notice create groups is Alt G. That one is one you will use quite a bit. Center on selection, you'll want to know that. That's simply titling O. So if you click on something and then you want to center your screen, that's one that you're going to want to have handy. Control H for creating composites. That's really handy to know. As opposed to otherwise, you can add them another way where basically if you're in here and you hit enter, you can select nodes and add them that way. I just find hitting a hotkey for that is going to be a heck of a lot quicker. We go back into our node view. Composites are going to be Control H. I just kind of left that as default because I didn't find it was too much of a stretch for me to hit Control H. One thing I did swap though is if I go ahead and create, drawing, not crying. Or sorry, they'll probably call it insert. Insert drawing. Okay, so the default for insert drawing is R, and the default for renaming a drawing is Control D. To my brain, that's completely backwards, because drawing is D and renaming is R, so I actually swapped my hotkeys there. So inserting a drawing is Control D, because you are inserting a drawing, and then for renaming, I have Control R, because I am renaming the drawing. So that's a little bit personal preference. If you're already memorized them, by all means, you have no need to swap them or anything. That just made more sense to my brain. Yeah, so I just went ahead and swapped that. Another handy hotkey, you saw me kind of adding pegs really quickly. Control P is going to get you to add a peg, which is really nice. If you have the drawing selected and you hit Control P, it'll automatically name that peg based on the drawing, which is nice. And if you have more than one drawing selected, If you go Control P, it creates one peg for the multiple drawings you have selected. Or if you go Shift Control P, each individual item you have selected is going to get a peg added. So really, if you're in here and edit keyboard shortcuts, you could find any number of tools that you would have in here. So if I'm in the timeline and I want to specifically see stuff for the timeline, if I go in there and I can see all of the ones that have hotkeys, what their default hotkeys are. So you'll see center on selection is O for timeline and node view, which is nice. So that's kind of why I have the backdrop and the scene marker as F12, because I know it'll basically create some kind of marker in either of them for me. So there you all have it, a little overview of the hotkeys that I use and some handy ones to know. By all means, feel free to go through and make some tweaks, or if you find you're using a tool a lot frequently, go ahead and come up with a hotkey for that. It'll make the process a little bit quicker. And then between this and the other video I have up of my preferences, you'll probably pretty much have the same setup as me. And from here on, we can go ahead and you can plug through some of the tutorials I'm going to be putting up.